Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be creating a new picture. We're going to be creating a picture based off a Pablo Picasso painting called Hands with Flowers. Because it is Hands with Flowers. All right? This picture actually he did not give a title to. So we just call it Hands with Flowers. Some people call it Bouquets of Peace, or I think it's usually called by its French name, which I can't say. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, to create our picture, here's what we're going to need. You're going to need a couple pieces of paper. You're going to need at least two, maybe three pieces of paper, depending on how big your hands are. I'm going to need three because I have big hands. So you're going to need two or three pieces of paper. You are going to need watercolor paint, if you have it. If you don't have watercolor paint, you could use any kind of paint. It would work just as good. Or if you don't have that, you could always use crayons or markers or anything like that. All right, the last things you're going to need is a marker. If you don't have a black marker, again, you could use like a black crayon or a colored pencil or even a pen. You're going to need scissors and a little bit of glue. All right, if you don't have this kind of glue, glue stick will work just great. All right, and if you don't have that, you can always use tape. So here's how we're going to do this. First, we're going to start by creating our flowers. So I'm going to paint my flowers using my watercolor paint. If you are using crayons or markers, you're going to draw your flowers instead. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it similar to how Picasso did it. I'm going to first start by painting the center of my flowers. So I'm going to paint circles. Get my paint on my brush. That will be the center of the flowers first. And I'm going to use different colors for each one. Maybe I do one purple. And this picture is supposed to be happy. It's supposed to be bright. It's supposed to remind you of spring and peace and joy. So we want to use bright colors and make it very colorful and beautiful. So I'm going to use purple for one. Maybe I'll use blue for one. And I'm choosing these colors. You do not have to use these same colors. You're going to be able to use whatever colors that you want. So you're going to do like 4 flowers. So I'm going to do the middle of them first, just so I can arrange them the way I want them. And I'm going to make them about the same size. If some are a little bigger, some are a little smaller, that's okay. It's not a big deal. And then I'm going to do the next one, red. And again, because we're using lots of different colors and bright colors, you really need to make sure that you're washing your brush off in between each color, each time you dip it in the paint. And then I'm going to do my last one, I think, orange. So the first thing that I did for these ones is I just did the centers. So I did all the centers of the flowers. I'm going to do this one right here. Then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to go in and add your flower petals. So I'm going to actually use this orange while I still have it on my brush for that one. I'm going to use it for my purple. But again, you could use any color combination you want for any part. So if you want to make your petals one color, if you want to make your things another color, it doesn't really matter to me. It's all that matters is that it's bright and colorful and that you guys are having fun while you're doing it. And I'm going to go to my next. I'm going to do red over on this blue one, I think. And again, I'm not making it very complicated. Just trying to do the petals. It'll start to look like flowers. This is one of Picasso's kind of, it's a little bit of an abstract picture. It's not totally abstract because you can totally tell what it is, but it's a little bit abstract. It's not very realistic looking. And this picture, Pablo Picasso made when he was actually pretty old. He was actually, I think, in his late 70s or 80s when he made this picture. And he was trying to actually paint like a child. He was exploring different ways to create art. Picasso was a very, very talented artist, and he could paint perfectly. If he wanted to make something look exactly right, he could do it. But he actually kind of found that a little bit boring and started to try to be a little bit more creative and create things that didn't look perfect, just to try to push his skills a little bit further. All right, so now after I have those painted, the next part's pretty easy. All you're going to do is take your brush, get a little bit of green on it, and you're going to paint the stems. So since this is a bouquet of flowers, we want to keep those stems pretty close. So we're going to keep them all kind of together. And again, be careful while you're doing this because some of this paint is still going to be wet. So if you touch it, it will probably blend together. So So if you want that to happen, awesome. If you don't want it to happen, just be careful. I'm actually going to add a little bit of yellow in here too. Just because I think it makes it look cool. All right. So now you're finished with the painting part of your picture. So what you'll do is you'll take this and put it off to the side somewhere so it can dry. Because the next part, we're going to actually be creating our hands. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hands and you're going to trace them onto those one or two other pieces of white paper. So if your hands are small, you could probably fit two hands onto one paper if you want to try to save paper. If not, you could just do your hand on a paper like this. Trace it with pencil first and then trace it with Sharpie. I'm just going to trace it with Sharpie first because I've done it a few times before, so I'm confident that I'll be able to do it the right way. So you're going to trace your hand with Sharpie. I've got my fingers open. And then I'm even going to trace my wrists going all the way off the page. Then after that, you can go back and look at the details on your hands. Maybe you want to add some fingernails. I have my wedding ring on this hand, so I'm actually going to add that part on just because it fits in. And then I'm actually going to add just a little bit of the lines on my hands. Not every single line I see on my hand, but just a couple, just to make it look a little bit more real. All right? Then I would do the same thing for the other hand. So I'd go ahead and trace my other hand. Now this is something where you might want to have a friend help you because it's not always easy to trace both of your hands. I'm right-handed, so for me to trace my left hand is very easy. For me to trace my left hand is easy. For me to trace my right hand is not very easy because I'm using my non-dominant hand to trace. So I'm just doing the best I can, and I'm pushing up against my hand to try to keep it as close as I can. But it might not be as good as the first one. But not too bad. So that's a great thing if you have somebody around like a grown-up or a brother or sister. I'm sure if you ask nicely, they wouldn't mind tracing your hand for a minute. And then, again, I'm just adding my details. All right, now I'm just going to cut these two out. I'm going to show you the next step. All right, once you have your hands cut out, what you're going to do is take your flowers back in front of you, excuse me, and you're going to figure out how you're going to set your hands up. So your picture might still be a little bit wet, so just be careful. And then you're going to figure out how you want your hands to be. So you should have a left hand and a right hand. So what you want to do is make sure that your thumbs are pointing up towards your flowers when you go to glue them down. My hands are very big. Again, I'm a grown-up. I have big hands. So I probably am not going to be able to fit two of my hands here very well unless I overlap them, which you totally can. If you don't like the way it looks with them overlapped, you could just do one hand. That's fine too. So it's really your choice of how you want to do it. I'm going to overlap mine because I cut them both out already, and I think it looks really cool if they're overlapped like that, like they're really holding a bouquet of flowers and passing it to somebody. So set it up how you want it first, and then all you're going to do is take a little bit of glue, just put it on the back of your hand where you need it. Remember, with this kind of Elmer's glue, just a dot, not a lot. You don't need too much of it. I just did a few dots, and then I'll put it back where I want it, and just kind of quickly press it down so I know it's going to stick. If your picture is very wet still, you might want to hold off on this part until it's dry, because our hands are white. We didn't color them in, just like Picasso's picture. So you just want to be careful. If it's really wet, it might go right through the white of your hand too. If you want to color yours in, of course you can. If you want to color it in with a skin color, or like color your nails in, or do something like that, of course you can. I'm just doing mine like this because I'm just kind of doing a version of Picasso's picture. But again, you guys are the artists. You make it how you want it to look. You be creative, and I can't wait to see what you guys create. I hope you have fun and channel your inner Picasso to create a really happy, peaceful spring picture. All right, guys, have fun.